Good morning, class. I'm Teacher Jessa, your teacher for today. So I hope everyone stays safe and doing well in your respective homes. So before we proceed to our lesson proper, please all rise and let us pray. So Jane, can you please lead a prayer?
Dear God, I praise you and I thank you for this wonderful day. Grant me the grace to understand our lesson for today, through whatever media or modality may it be, and bless me so that I may appreciate this grace of being able to study despite of the challenges we are facing because of this pandemic. Make me realize the value of education and the beauty of learning, so that each day I will be more motivated to do my responsibility as a student. Bless our classmates, that they too may see your goodness in everything and see this time as an opportunity to show our love to our parents by studying well. Bless our teachers so that they will become more inspired to teach us and see this time as an opportunity to show compassion in their chosen profession. And lastly, our parents, so that they may become resilient, especially during these trying times. This we ask in your most holy name. Amen.
So after the prayer, let us have a short energizer, and after that, please be ready for checking of attendance. So before we proceed to our new lesson, let us have a short review about our last topic. Since you understand our last topic, so let us move on. So before we start our new lesson, let us play a game called Guess Picture. So I prepared 2 to 3 pictures, then you need to identify what is it. So if you know the answer, please raise your hand. Do you understand? So in the first picture, it shows the moral standard. And the next picture, it shows the non-moral standard. And the last picture, it shows that moral standard. So since you are very good class because you answer all the questions, so now let us proceed to our discussion. So now let us continue our discussion. So for our learning objectives, at the end of the lesson, the student should be able to first define ethics and moral philosophy. Next, identify the difference between moral and non-moral standard. And lastly, appreciate the importance of moral and non-moral standard by sharing knowledge. So now, let us define what is ethics and moral philosophy. So the term ethics is derived from the Greek words ethos, which originally means custom of character. Broadly construed, ethics is a branch of philosophy that studies the rightness and wrongness of human actions. So in a particular, this branch of philosophy is concerned with question of how human person ought to act in the search of definitions of right conduct and good life. So while the moral philosophy, it is a branch of philosophy that contemplates what is right and wrong. It explores the nature of morality and examines how people should live their lives in the relations of others. So let us continue our discussion. So now let's talk about the importance topic in ethics. So this is all about the moral standard and non-moral standard. So this topic is to explain the difference between them. So first, before we proceed to our lesson, I have a question that I want to ask. This question is all about why they need to distinguish the moral and non-moral standard. So it is important to know that different societies have different moral beliefs and that our beliefs is deeply influenced by our own culture and context. So for this reason, some values to have a moral implication while others don't. Let us consider example the wearing of hijab. For sure in traditional Muslim communities, the wearing of hijab is the most appropriate act that women have to do in terms of dressing up. So for moral standard are norms that individuals or group have about the kinds of actions believed to be moral right and wrong, as well as the values placed on what we believe to be morally good or morally bad. Moral standard normally promote the good, that is the welfare and well-being of humans as well as animals and the environment. Moral standard therefore prescribe what humans are to do in terms of right and obligations. According to some scholars, moral standards are the sum that combine that norms and values. In other words, norms plus values equals standard, moral standard. On other hands, norms are understand that general rules about actions or behavior. For example, we are always under obligation to fulfill our promises, or it's always believes killing innocent people in absolutely wrong. So in the other hand, values understood as enduring beliefs or statement about what is good and desirable or not. For example, we may say helping the poor is good or cheating during exam is bad. According to the many scholars, moral standard has following characteristic. First, moral standard deals with matter we think can seriously injure or benefit humans, animals, and the environment such as child abuse, rape, and murder. Second is moral standard not established or changed by the decisions of authoritative individuals or bodies. Third, moral standard are overriding, that is, they take precedence over other standard and consideration especially of self-interest. Fourth, moral standards are based on impartial consideration, hence moral standards are fair and just. And lastly, moral standard associated with spatial emotions and vocabulary. So non-moral standard, in other hands, it refers to standard by which we judge what is good or bad and right and wrong in non-moral way. For example, non-moral standard are standard of etiquette by which we judge manner as good or bad, standard we call the law, and standard of aesthetic. We should not confuse morality with the etiquette, law, and aesthetic, or even with our religion. As we can see, non-moral standard are matters of taste or preference. And moral standard says do not harm innocent people. So for non-moral standard says do not next while driving